Hi, I'm Michael Tschantz, and I'll be telling you about my paper, What is Proxy Discrimination? When is someone's zip code a proxy for their race? Are some applicants for loans experiencing proxy discrimination when they are rejected for a low credit score? What makes a proxy a proxy? What makes proxy discrimination proxy discrimination? If you want to know, you should check out my talk and paper, but I won't actually answer these questions. Instead, I'll discuss a range of candidate answers from prior works without firmly picking any of them as right or wrong. Rather, I decompose them into elemental relationships between three variables: the putative proxy, the sensitive attribute that it targets, and the decision being made. For example, music tastes may be a proxy targeting race in a system for deciding who gets loans. The more of the relationships that hold, the more justified it becomes to call the putative proxy a proxy, and the more justified it becomes to call this situation proxy discrimination. Here's some of the relationships. The first says that the putative proxy actually has the capacity to be a proxy. That is, that it's associated with the target, enabling it to take the place of the target in statistical models. The second is that it's used, which takes us from the proxy being a proxy in theory to the proxy actually being involved in what might be proxy discrimination. The third says that the proxy's target is unused, so the model might be relying upon the proxy in the target's place. The fourth says that the decision is correlated with the target, what you'd expect from a proxy that did its proxying well. These are all simple first-order relationships between these variables. We also have second-order elemental relationships. The first says that the reason why the proxy was used is that it has the capacity to proxy for the target. The second says that the proxy is used because the target wasn't used. And the last says that using the proxy introduced the correlation between its target and the decision. You put all these together and you get a pretty quintessential case of proxy discrimination, a case in which the proxy captures the target and is used for this reason and because the target isn't used, and the proxy's use causes the decision to be correlated with the target. In the full version, I'll run through prior works showing which subsets of these relationships they require to hold before calling a variable a proxy or declaring a situation to be proxy discrimination. I'll also take a closer look at what it means for these relationships to hold. Different authors have different notions of correlation or causation in mind. If you consider them all to be valid, it's pretty easy to consider almost any variable to be a proxy for almost any target, at least some of the time. So I think it's really better to think of proxy discrimination not as identifying a particular problem with the decision system, but rather for identifying a cluster of related concerns which are subject to ongoing study and debate. Check out the full talk or the paper for more.